Hello YouTube, this video is about my fridge. Now, when I was thinking about building a motorhome, one thing I really wanted was cold drinks and my food to keep cold when I was out in sunny weather. So a fridge was an essential part, and from the research I did, I could have gone with a compressor fridge which runs just on 12 volts, or I could have gone with the three-way fridge, which is gas, electric and 12 volt, and that's what I went with, the three-way fridge. It's a Dometic fridge. I'll put the model number on screen. And what I must say is, I'm not advising anybody here with this. I was advised not to buy this fridge, but I went against that advice, and I'll explain why, but it's your choice on which way you go, and obviously your responsibility. Because with a fridge, with a three-way fridge, you've got mains, so when you're plugged in, that's fine. But then when you've not got mains, you can run it on gas. And at the back of the fridge somewhere, there's a little flame, probably about the size of a candle flame, and that works to keep the fridge cold. I don't understand exactly how that works, but it does. And obviously with that flame burning, there's carbon monoxide given off, as there is with every flame that burns. So you have to vent and put a flue in for the fridge to prevent that building up and becoming a problem. Too much carbon monoxide can actually kill you. So it's something that's got to be taken quite seriously. When I went into the shop and asked about the fridges, there was this fridge that I liked the size of, and I built the enclosure around here to fit it exactly. But there was two models. There was this one, and there was one that was exactly the same, but was for a motorhome. So one was for a tent or camping, and one was for a motorhome. But the difference in price was, this was around £250 at the time, and the motorhome one was £500. And I couldn't understand why it was so much more expensive. And when I did the research, there's actually no difference in the fridge. One comes with a flue kit and one doesn't. But the flue kit you can buy separately anyway, and you can add it onto the camping fridge. So it is the same fridge basically. And nobody would say it wasn't the same fridge, but they wouldn't sell the camping one to me for using in a motorhome. When I asked them to explain the differences, the only difference they could give me, and I don't know whether this is right or wrong, this is what they told me, was that one was certified to be safe for use in a motorhome, and the other one wasn't, and the certification is the bit that cost the money, and that was why it was so much more expensive. Having researched it myself, I decided to go with the camping fridge, and as I say, they wouldn't sell that to me, so I said to them, well, if you don't sell it to me, I'll just go and buy it somewhere else. And then they sold it to me. So when they did sell it to me, they said, you might be poisoned with carbon monoxide. So I said, well, that's my decision, the chance that I will take. So I'm not stupid, I don't want to be poisoned by carbon monoxide, but I also didn't want to pay £250 more for the same fridge. So I got this fridge and I installed it, and I set it up with the 12 volt, so when you're driving you've got 12 volt that keeps it cool, and say you can plug into the mains when you're stationary, or you can run it on gas. And I've always run it on gas really, I've hardly ever run it on the mains. And when I first went out, in this van I've got two carbon monoxide detectors, and when I first went out I was very keen to keep an eye on the gas and the carbon monoxide, but I could never get a reading from any of the carbon monoxide detectors. And they do work, because if I put a kettle on or cook anything on the stove, the readings start flicking up on the monitors, and then when you stop cooking they come back down. So I know that they work. And when I did put the fridge in, initially I had it just went straight in, and it just fits exactly into this space, and at the back there's probably, I don't know, a few inches, and then you've got the wall of the van, which was insulated. And so what I intended to do was put vents in to let the heat out, because you've got to have a flow of air, cold air coming in and hot air going out. And I hadn't got around to doing that, but I was using the fridge and it was working fine. But the problem is all this hot air builds up at the back, and as I say, I was monitoring for carbon monoxide and I could never find a trace of it, so I was quite happy with that. And I'd also bought the flue as well that they recommended, that was needed as a safety feature. But I was debating whether to use the flue, given that I couldn't detect any carbon monoxide. So I later installed these vents for airflow, and that helped the fridge stay cold and it used a bit less gas. And also in the summer, because obviously I'm in a blue van, the side of the van gets very hot to touch. You can't even keep your fingers on it on some days. And so if I'm parked where the sun's on the fridge side, I noticed it wasn't as cold as it could have been. So I added two large computer style 12-volt fans into the top to actually suck out the hot air, so I can put that on and off via a switch. So I've got a good airflow to make the fridge run efficiently. So again, I had this flue that I needed to install as well, but I knew that the flue was going to be a nightmare to install because of the shape of the van and where it needed to go. And I was constantly checking for carbon monoxide, and as I never found any carbon monoxide reading from the fridge, after using it on gas for 2 years by this point, I decided not to bother with the flue. Now, as I say, I've gone against all the advice that I was given, and I'm not recommending that you do this, I'm just telling you what I did. Just one issue I did have with the fridge was that after I'd used it for a while, when I came to try and ignite the gas again, after maybe a few weeks of not using it, I went through a phase of it not lighting very easily. And then it got to a point where it wouldn't light. And so what I had to do was pull the fridge out, and it's a very tight fit. I had to pull the fridge out and have a look at it. And it turns out that where the burner is, it gets dirty. I don't know whether it's just the soot from the flame or bits of dust or whatever it is, but the debris sort of lands on the burner, and then obviously you can't ignite it. So that's happened maybe, I don't know, 4 times in 4 years, with lots of use, and then periods in between where it's not been used for a few weeks. So after I took the fridge out once, and it was a big hassle to get it out, because obviously there's a sink unit here and it's quite a narrow gap, so you have to manoeuvre it out. I decided I'd put an access hatch in the bathroom, so that I could just take off, undo a few screws and access the back of the fridge via the bathroom, and that works really well for clearing that problem. But as I say, it's the only problem I've had with the fridge, really, and it's been a really good fridge. Inside my fridge I actually have shelves, and I think all of the fridge just have shelves. The problem is, obviously, when it moves, things slide around. So I put these containers in, and these are just cheap water containers cut in half. There you go, you can see the handle on that end, and they work really well at holding the food in. And all I've done, you can probably hardly see it, and all I've done here is attach them with cable ties, and they slide back into quite nicely. Actually, one other small problem I have had with the fridge is there's a little catch here, and that just locks the fridge so that when you're travelling it doesn't fly open. However, it's not always worked, and occasionally it has flown open while I've been travelling. The last straw was when I had some fresh soup in the fridge in a carton that was open. I went around a corner and I ended up with a soup coloured carpet. So that wasn't good, and it took a lot of cleaning up. So what I did then, I did these little eyelets I'll just put this small bungee cord between the eyelets, and it stops the door from opening when I'm travelling. So that's the fridge, and yeah, it keeps everything nice and cold. So thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, happy to answer them in the comments, and please subscribe and all that, and cheers.